The Deathworld Council convened once every 12 standard cycles on Vorther Prime, a planet so inhospitable that even its sunlight could melt exposed skin. Delegates arrived clad in living armor, encapsulated in bioshells grown from their own genetic essence. Poisonous winds howled through blackened spires, each one carved from the remains of long-dead titans who once ruled Deathworlds long before civilization dared name them. It was not a place for humans. It never had been. Which made the signal from Earth all the more insane. We humbly request an audience with the Deathworld Council. Those words flashed across the encrypted trans-channel, bouncing off 30,000 relay beacons, and lighting up with high-priority alerts in every Deathworld ambassador's chamber. For the elder species of the Council, like the Rakthale, the Zurith Dominion and the Malgak Triune, it wasn't just an insult. It was a provocation. A dare. No uninitiated species has ever requested this, hissed Archwarden Grokhall, his mandibles clicking in disbelief as acidic mist hissed off his war chitin. Earth is classified as a Tier 7 death world, barely qualifying. And even if they were worthy, they weren't invited. The other delegates murmured in agreement, some through voice, others through psychic channel pulses, others still through rhythmic pheromone bursts. The consensus was absolute. Humanity had overstepped. But before anyone could agree on how to punish the insolence, something happened that hadn't occurred in all the Council's history. A ship entered Vorther Prime's upper atmosphere without clearance. It didn't decloak. It didn't hail. It simply dropped from orbit like a spear from the gods, and landed. There was no ceremony. No pageantry. Just a deafening silence, followed by the unmistakable hiss of atmosphere equalizing. Then, the doors opened. From the shimmering metal, 3 humans stepped forward. No power armor. No translation helmets. No visible weapons. Just dark blue uniforms with a red insignia, a flame flanked by thorns, stitched over the chest. And at the center, a woman. Average height. Slightly weathered face. Calm eyes. She held a briefcase, and when she stepped onto the toxic ground of Vorther Prime without flinching, every sensor in the Council chamber screamed. Biological incompatibility, 99.993% fatal. Immediate necrotic decay expected. Warning, hostile biofield. Warning, subject not dying. None of the predictions came true. She walked. They followed. With every step, the ground trembled, not from force but from rejection. The planet knew they weren't meant to be here. And yet, it allowed it. Inside the obsidian halls of the Council's assembly, the great circle of Deathworld sovereigns gathered in stunned silence. 45 of the deadliest species in the known galaxy, each evolved through blood, ash and apocalypse, stared as the human delegation entered without breaking stride. I am Commander Talia Reyes, the woman said. Earth requests a voice in your council. The silence that followed could have shattered planets. No, rasped a Malgak warlord whose body pulsed with internal magma. You don't get a voice. You don't get an audience. You get execution. Talia didn't blink. You think because we asked we're weak. Because we knocked we need permission. You misunderstand. We're here as a courtesy. Not a request. That did it. A dozen sovereigns surged to their feet. Blades uncoiled from skin. Plasma cannons unfolded from bone sockets. Minds lashed through the air like invisible storms. And still, the humans stood there. Talia calmly opened her briefcase. A small device unfolded. It projected a holographic image of something none of the Deathworlders had seen before, the Vrax Protocol. A dead planet. Once a thriving Tier 9 Deathworld. Now glassed. Not by bombardment. Not by orbital weapons. By humans. With a ship the size of a city that didn't exist on any Deathworld records. We didn't come here for permission. We came here to show what happens when you ignore us. The chamber froze. The implication was clear. Deathworlds didn't threaten humans anymore. They got erased by them. A biodense counselor, one of the oldest, exhaled spores into the air, translating a psychic question across the room. How is that possible? Talia finally smiled. Because death didn't shape us. We shaped it. Then she stepped forward and did what no outsider ever had. She placed a token on the central obsidian table, the mark of a sovereign species. You left us out for 17 cycles. You forgot that Earth isn't a death world because of its terrain. It's a death world because we live on it. The eldest Rakthale blinked all 6 of its eyes, slow and deliberate. Even if we accepted that, how would you survive membership? The trials alone would. We've already passed the trials, Talia interrupted, eyes glowing faintly now. You just never realized we were being tested. A slow, rumbling laugh echoed from the Zurith ambassador, a sound like tectonic plates grinding. Well then, human. Let's find out if that flame of yours burns as brightly as your words. But as Talia raised her hand, signaling something with a gesture, the lights across the chamber shifted. Every delegate's communicator lit up. A shared feed. Dozens of Deathworld outposts, burning. Craters smoking. Data logs showing precise, surgical strikes against experimental military programs. All wiped out. Silently. Efficiently. Human forces had already been there. And no one had noticed. Wait, hissed one delegate. How did your kind even find those locations? Talia tapped her skull. Because we think differently. While you dominate through fear, we study. While you war, we infiltrate. You evolve through pain, we evolve through information. We learn from watching you. Now you'll learn from watching us. Not a boast. A warning. She turned toward the exit, motioning to her silent escorts. But just before stepping out of the chamber, she paused and looked back. Last chance. Include us or we build our own council with fewer chairs. And then she left, leaving behind the one token that now pulsed with an ominous glow, fused into the stone table. Unremovable. The Deathworlders stared in silence. And for the first time in its long and violent history, the Deathworld Council hesitated. The obsidian doors groaned shut behind Commander Talia Reyes, but the tremor she'd set in motion hadn't stopped. They were accelerating. Inside the vast amphitheater of the Deathworld Council, silence was no longer stunned. It was strategic. Calculating. Dangerous. Ambassador Zolnvek of the Ulsharine Hive clicked his mandibles nervously, sending out a pheromone burst of doubt that was quickly suppressed by the ammonia-rich air. That token, he said aloud, should have disintegrated. The core table rejects invalid sovereign marks. It has for millennia. Yet the human token remained, now pulsing a faint red, matching the flame insignia that adorned Talia's chest. Across the chamber, a debate was already forming, not through raised voices but through neural spikes and data-saturated psychic pulses. Who authorized their approach? The humans breached Vorther Prime's quarantine net. That should be impossible. There was no escort ship. No warning. The outpost defenses didn't even trigger. Oh. The answer was crawling up each delegate's spine in real time. Humanity hadn't asked to be part of the Deathworld Council. They had demonstrated their claim. And they did it by beating the Council at its own game. Subversion, intelligence, force projection, and fear. Meanwhile, back aboard the human warship Leviathan's Grin, Talia stood in her private command chamber, removing the formal uniform's outer coat. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Colonel Desmond Khalil, was waiting with 2 cups of synth brew, dark, bitter, and fortified with anti-radiation proteins. That went better than I expected, he said, sipping. No one tried to bite your head off. Talia smiled faintly. Oh, they'll try. They're just recalculating. Desmond raised an eyebrow. And when they finish recalculating? We move to phase 2. He froze, cup halfway to his lips. You're actually going through with it? She nodded. We didn't crash the council just to join it. We're going to reshape it. They think humans want a seat at the table. We're building a new table entirely, and they'll beg for a place at ours. Desmond stared for a long moment, then exhaled. What's next? Talia tapped a panel on the wall. A 3-dimensional star map unfolded, highlighting a web of red nodes that pulsed like infection points across the galaxy. These are the initiated sectors. Places where the Deathworld Council quietly conducts experiments, builds war proxies, cultivates hyperviolent species for use as future pawns. Genocide breeding grounds disguised as research zones. And you want to expose them all? No. I want to liberate them, Talia said. And let the galaxy see what kind of council they've been fearing for 17 million years. We don't bring peace by making friends, Desmond. We bring peace by flipping over the entire board. He smirked. Sounds like something Earth would do. 2 cycles later, in a darkened sector of the Selvrak Rift, a Deathworld-class predator world known as Agranis went dark. Council delegates scrambled to respond. A Zurith fleet arrived to investigate. All they found were husks, entire warbeast kennels emptied, control centers gutted, data cores erased. A single message remained, carved into the central ziggurat in 3-meter-high human script. This is your warning shot. Next time we won't sterilize. We'll repurpose. Talia Reyes's name began circulating through the Council's private archives. Then her dossier. than Earth's. What they found didn't reassure them. Earth's climate instability, resource wars, collapse and rebirth cycles. Biological diversity that thrived on chaos. Predators that hunted through curiosity. A species that learned faster under pressure, and never stopped adapting. Earth was no accidental death world. It was a forge. Back on Vorther Prime, the Council's Grand Circle gathered again, this time in emergency session. No decorum. No ceremony. Archwarden Grockhall seethed. They're attacking our sanctuaries. That's a declaration of war. No, corrected Lady Velmuth of the Cryoseraphs, a towering figure of psionic ice. It's a declaration of supremacy. They think they've surpassed us. That they are the new apex. A low thrum passed through the chamber. That cannot be allowed, growled Zolnvek. Deathworld status must be earned. Which is what they're doing, Velmuth replied calmly. You forget, Earth was never denied a seat. It was ignored. We assumed they were unworthy. But we never tested that theory. Now every test was being passed, retroactively, aggressively, and with precision. They're not asking us to accept them, Velmuth finished. They're forcing us to evolve. On the bridge of Leviathan's Grin, Talia stood before her fleet commanders. 7 humans, each a specialist in tactics forged from Earth's darkest ages. Urban warfare. Bioespionage. Orbital infiltration. Civilization reengineering. Operation Firebreak is green, she announced. We begin coordinated strikes on all Council-owned rogue planets. Her officers nodded. No one questioned the plan. They'd seen what the Deathworld Council did to emergent species, turning potential allies into monsters, erasing civilizations that refused to bow. Now humanity had the tech, the leverage and, most importantly, the motive. Talia tapped the table again. This time a list appeared. Delegates, species, worlds, weaknesses, and beneath each name, a strategy. We've spent decades watching their council from the shadows. Every security flaw, every ego-driven mistake, every unguarded assumption, we know them all. And now we're going to use it. Desmond leaned forward. You sure they won't just unite against us? Oh, they will, Talia said. And when they do, they'll discover the final piece of the puzzle. She raised a second panel, revealing a hidden alliance. The Garkesh Swarm. The Ravlan Breakaways. Even a few surviving Zenthari rogue states. Species crushed by the Deathworld Council's cruelty. Now aligned with Earth. They thought we were alone, Talia whispered. But Earth is never alone. We make allies out of enemies. Friends out of the forgotten. And monsters out of tyrants. Desmond grinned. Damn. I love this job. By the end of that cycle, 4 more Council Deathworlds had gone dark. Dozens of species petitioned for sanctuary under Earth's new protectorate. And the Deathworld Council? They issued their first red-level war decree in over 100,000 years. One target. But they were already too late. Talia was coming for them. The Grand War Decree reached Earth like a whisper before the thunder, silent, cold, absolute. Every species in the known galaxy received the message. It was encoded in ancient syntactic protocols, stamped by the seal of the Deathworld Council, and loaded with gravimetric resonance so strong that even worlds without interstellar relays felt its weight. A single sentence reverberated across stars and minds alike. The planet Earth is to be neutralized. Its species is to be undone. But Earth did not respond with fear. It responded by inviting them to try. Commander Talia Reyes sat alone on the observation deck of the Leviathan's Grin, her face illuminated by the aurora flares dancing off the gas giant Vorther 10. It was peaceful, deceptively so. Beneath that planetary curtain, Earth's newest mobile bastion, Hammerfall, was charging its weapons. Desmond approached, his steps cautious but confident. We've confirmed it. The Council launched from 3 hubs. The Drekken fleets are leading their vanguard, 12 battleships for supercarriers and an Ark-class Devourer ship. It's not a probe. It's annihilation doctrine. Talia didn't blink. Time to drop the veil then. Desmond tilted his head. Everything? Everything. He exhaled slowly. This war's going to write a new rulebook. No, she said standing. This war ends the rulebook. She walked to the table in the center of the room and pressed her hand against the embedded Earth core seal. It pulsed red. Panels unfolded. Lights danced. And one by one classified files blinked into view, revealing Earth's real strength. We had never fought a war like this before. Because we'd never needed to. But that was never the limit of our capability. It was our choice. And now choice had been stripped away. In the void spires orbiting neutral system Norelvect, the Deathworld Council's High Strategic Assembly convened in a fortress of thought and metal. Dozens of species crowded the digital chamber, mind-linked and ready to execute planetary extinction. Until the first report shattered the moment. A Vorth-class cruiser, supposed to intercept Earth's forward fleet, had vanished. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Gone. Sensors never detected fire. The ship's final broadcast was a whisper, panic layered over static. They're inside the hull, how did they get? And then nothing. The Council reacted with cold efficiency. Launch countermeasures. Check for viral AIs. Begin psychic tracing. But nothing worked. One by one more ships fell, silent, clean, surgical. Then a message. Human-made. Broadcasted through the mind link. You wanted to see us fight. Welcome to the final demonstration. Attached was footage, grainy and sharp. A human strike team, black-clad, 0G, outfitted in the newly revealed Polaris armor. They moved through hull walls like ghosts. They disabled reactors by touch. They slipped through psionic barriers that had resisted millennia of warfare. Each helmet bore the same word. Repurposed. Because Earth had taken the Council's own technologies, decrypted them, rebuilt them, and enhanced them. Everything the Deathworld Council had used to dominate the galaxy was now part of Earth's arsenal. On the bridge of the Council's Arc-class command dreadnought Spine of Galdrax, Admiral Rentkor of the Drekken Horde stood frozen. How are they breaching psychic interdiction? That's impossible. No longer, a voice echoed behind him. He turned, just in time to see a human operative step from the shadows of his own bridge. Armor shimmered, cloaked in dark light tech. The Council's elite couldn't move fast enough. The human nodded once and detonated. No explosion. Just silence. The command dreadnought blinked from existence. Not destroyed. Unwritten. Earth had developed temporal scramble tech. Something even the Council feared from ancient times. And now it was in human hands. Talia Reyes watched as the kill count rose, not in numbers but in Council seats. Every time a high-level target vanished, Earth's AI tracking system resynced. Desmond stood beside her, jaw tight. We've just decapitated their Drekken command, spiked their psionic relay, and bent 3 species into neutrality through sheer psychological warfare. She nodded. And yet we're still not done. We have one last operation, he said quietly. The Citadel. The Deathworld Council's hidden capital. Located in a gravity-twisted subdimension folded between 6 dying suns. A place no species had ever found. Until humans did. And now they were going there. Not to negotiate. Not to destroy. But to replace. In the dying light of the 6-fold sunwell, Leviathan's grin emerged from the rift gate, followed by 2 Earth dreadnoughts, Vindicator's crown and Soul's reign. The Citadel was a fortress built by species that feared extinction. Its walls were woven from dark matter and temporal flux. Time bled inside it. Truth warped. And yet Earth's fleet passed through the barrier like it was mist. Because the ship's hulls were printed in time-glass, a material Earth reverse-engineered from the remains of extinct dimensional beings wiped out by the Council itself. Earth didn't just learn fast. We learned from the worst. Talia Reyes stepped into the Citadel's core, flanked by diplomats, soldiers, historians, and a sentient AI forged from humanity's last 10,000 years of evolution. They walked through the Hall of Wills, past the screaming mirrors of judgment, into the heart of the galaxy's cruelest power, and faced the last remaining Council members, old, powerful, desperate. Talia said one thing. Your time is over. We're not here to fight anymore. We're here to govern. The delegates screamed. Tech. Reached into forbidden technologies. And Earth absorbed it all. War constructs. Mind weapons. Everything. Because our ancestors had been prey. Slaves. Collateral. Forgotten. But not anymore. We were apex now. Not through violence alone. But because we had looked into the abyss, and built a civilization that could survive it. A day later, every species in the galaxy received a new message. Broadcast from the center of the Citadel. By Commander Reyes herself. The Deathworld Council no longer exists. Its crimes are known. Its power has been returned to those it oppressed. Earth is not your enemy. We are your future. And at the end of the message, one line, glowing in gold across every screen, carved into every satellite, whispered into every neural net. Humanity is building a better galaxy. Join us or get out of the way. The Citadel, the mythical heart of galactic tyranny, had gone quiet. Not by force alone but by something far more permanent. Integration. Humanity had not just conquered the Deathworld Council. They had absorbed it, replaced it, rewritten it from the inside. The screaming mirrors once used for judgment? Now tools of introspection and empathy. The Void Lock, a dimensionless prison designed for rebellions, had been disarmed and reopened as a refugee processing network. Across the galaxy, the species once oppressed by the Council began receiving strange messages from the former enforcement fleets. You are no longer under subjugation. Earth has liberated this unit. Await assistance. You are free. Talia Reyes stood atop the prime spire of the Citadel's core tower, overlooking the living lattice of gravimetric cities once inaccessible to all but the elite species. Now they had become open embassies, centers for reconciliation, education, and co-defense. Desmond approached her once more, now in a dark navy uniform etched with the new seal of galactic leadership, a spiral of 7 stars circling a single bright point, Earth. They're adapting, he said, offering a data tablet. Reports flooded in. The Zenari, once enslaved for their sublight sensitivity, had now partnered with Earth to design lightwave communication relays faster than the old psionic networks. The Cruxy Hive, once reduced to mercenaries by threat of planetary sterilization, had volunteered to guard the neutral zones from future imperialist incursions, under human-led command. The Threxel, formerly forbidden from entering the galactic core due to their biological volatility, were now being trained by Earth's terraforming guilds to rehabilitate dead worlds. Talia scrolled through the updates, her expression unreadable. Desmond hesitated. They still fear us, you know? We don't need to erase that, she said. Let them remember the moment humanity stopped bowing and started building. He nodded. And the ones who don't come peacefully? She gestured toward the stars. Leviathan's grin, Soul's reign, Vindicator's crown, and 36 newly commissioned diplomatic dreadnoughts hung in orbit like sentinels. Not aiming to conquer, but capable of ending wars before they began. Talia whispered, they'll get the message. Across the galaxy, holosculptures of the event known now as the Citadel Shift became sacred. Not religiously, culturally. It was the day the galactic order didn't fall into chaos, but instead was redirected. Entire worlds once under tyranny began to flourish. Earth distributed open-source terraforming tech, metapods powered by quantum entanglement and gravity-stable agriculture. No more food monopolies. No more black hole threats used as bargaining chips. Humanity hadn't just fought back. They brought peace with teeth. And when that peace was challenged, those who challenged it learned very fast why Earth had been banned from the Council's core for so long. Because under all the progress was power. In the ruins of the former Council chamber, Talia stood before the newly sworn representatives of the Interstellar Accord. 79 species. All voting. All equal. She didn't stand above them but with them. No thrones. No execution pits. No neural compliance. Just one voice. We were alone. For centuries you ignored Earth. You underestimated our storms. Our hearts. Our ability to change. And when you turned your weapons on us, we didn't just survive. We evolved. The galaxy is broken. But we're builders. And what we build lasts. You may never fully trust us. That's fine. But you will never again rule us. And if you rise alongside us, you'll never have to fear us. The chamber stood silent for a breath. Then 79 voices replied as one. Then let the stars begin anew. Somewhere in the outer reaches of forgotten sectors, ancient species awoke. Not council slaves. Not Deathworld science. But remnants. Observers. The old ones. The quiet ones. Watching Earth. Some with hope. Some with terror. Because they knew what it meant when a Deathworld species didn't just survive but thrive. They knew the prophecy, long buried, often mocked. One day the fire will walk. It will build cities on ash. And when the flame speaks, the void shall listen. Earth was that fire. And now the void listened. Epilogue. Message to the people of Earth. Talia Reyes, speaking directly to Earth for the first time since the war, transmitted a message visible on every screen in every language. You didn't ask for this. You didn't choose war. But you stood ready when it came. And now the stars are watching us not as invaders, not as rebels, but as leaders. Stay sharp. Stay kind. Stay relentless. Because if we fall into the same traps they did, all of this was for nothing. This is not the end. This is just chapter 1 of the Galactic Accord. And Earth is its heartbeat. The feed closed with the symbol of the Accord. Not a flag, not a weapon, but a child's drawing uploaded from a backwater station. A hand reaching out, surrounded by stars. And written beside it in charcoal. We're not alone anymore. To all of you who've followed this story across stars and silence, thank you. If you want to see what happens next in humanity's journey across the stars, subscribe now and join the growing fleet of dreamers, warriors, and builders. The void is big, but together we make it ours. Milky Way. Subscribe to the Void Narratives for more epic sci-fi tales, galactic uprisings, and humanity standing tall among the stars. New stories land weekly. Don't miss your next mission. Milky Way.